Hullabaloo and howdy do, folks.
Hullabaloo and howdy do.
I am Jenny from the block, and I don't normally do video game reviews. I do book reviews on my second channel, Jenny Reads, but on this channel I usually just, play games. I don't typically make commentary on them beyond a brief evaluation of how much I enjoyed them at the very end sometimes. But, Mixtape is an exception to this. So, I actually didn't know that much about Mixtape going into it beyond it being set in the 1990s and that people were absolutely slamming it as being an awful piece of trash that they wanted to banish to hell. Now, I'm not going to pretend that the video game world is always balanced and reasonable and fair in its responses to certain video games, but there were a lot of people saying it. People outside of the usual suspects, if you get what I mean by that. So I decided it might be worth it to check the game out for myself. And, I hated it. A lot. So I decided I would do a review of the game with my playthrough footage and commentary mixed in. The reason for this formatting is my first critique, incidentally enough. The game is, in my entirely subjective opinion, a bloated walking simulator with limited and often unsatisfying interactivity. Let me explain. The story centers on Rockford, who lives in what's implied to be a small town in the Pacific Northwest in 1999. I don't remember if it's Washington or Oregon, and frankly, it doesn't really matter. It's Rockford's last day in town before heading off to New York to try and make it as a music producer. So she's hanging out with Slater, who comes across as your stereotypical stoner, and Cassandra, who's rebelling against her strict parents. We start off by skating down a hill to Rockford's house, and this is where an important part of the game's mechanics first becomes apparent. Woo! For that cringe intro. Oh, come on! I can't make her crash! I can't make her eat shit! Are you kidding me? You can't fail. If you crash into a car, the screen freezes and rewinds. The most you can do is pull off a few skateboarding tricks, but even if you mess these up, you'll be perfectly fine because you literally cannot fail. But Jenny, I hear you protest, it's the opening segment of the game. Maybe they just made it easy to warn you for future segments. Can't fail any of the other segments of the game either. I tried. You can earn trophies by achieving specific things during these segments, but you cannot actually lose. I played the entire game, and at no point during any of the skating segments, nor the running segment towards the end, that definitely doesn't come across like it's ripped from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which was an 80s film, by the way. You cannot fail. You cannot crash. You are not required to start segments over and try again. The game just nudges you back a few feet and lets you try again. Now listen, I'm a big proponent of creators doing whatever the hell they want with their creations. If this is what the developer wanted to do, then cool. What I'm saying is that as a gamer, this was immensely unsatisfying, and I didn't like it. I need you to understand that I am not coming at this from the perspective of someone who hates walking simulator games with minimal interactivity. What Remains of Edith Finch is one of my all-time favorite video games, and though I thought it was flawed, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is another one I really enjoyed. Of the two, What Remains of Edith Finch is, in my opinion, the superior of the two games because of the inventive and diverse sequences where we see the world from the Finch family members' points of view. You can't really fail these segments either, not that I recall anyway, but there's something that What Remains of Edith Finch and Everybody's Gone to the Rapture have in common that, in my opinion, Mixtape fundamentally does not have. A strong, emotional story that moves the audience. All of the interactive sequences in What Remains of Edith Finch are ultimately present to push the story forward. As we progress in these segments, we uncover more of the stories of these characters and ultimately their untimely demises. The story that unifies all of these segments is the lone survivor of the family, Edith, coming home after her mother's death and passing through their strange and unconventionally structured house. We are driven to keep moving through the game because we want to explore more of this beautiful and diverse environment and learn more about how it came to be and the people who inhabited it. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is similar. We're dropped into a rural English town in the 1970s, I think it was, and uncover the stories of the townsfolk who all disappeared after becoming mysteriously ill. Though environmental storytelling and the stories being replayed through the astronomical anomaly covering the town, we progressively learn more about the fates of these characters. I should also mention too, especially given how heavily Mixtape is focused on music, that What Remains of Edith Finch and Everybody's Gone to the Rapture both have amazing original soundtracks. Highly emotional and beautiful. They actually recorded original songs for Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and if you've never heard it before, I seriously recommend looking it up. The work they did on the soundtrack for that game was beautiful. Oh, and the voice acting in both games was amazing as well. Anyway, coming back to Mixtape, both of the games I've just talked about are limited interactivity games, but they are heavily carried by amazing and emotional storytelling and a sense of mystery that compels people to keep going. Mixtape, in my opinion, does not have these things. The story is 3 delinquents hanging out the day before they're due to be separated. They want to attend a big blowout party that night. That's it. There's no mystery here to push me through the more tedious moments, and the only emotions these characters manage to pull out of me was irritation. What's more, unlike What Remains of Edith Finch, the interactive segments of the story in Mixtape don't really serve to drive the plot forward. There's the skateboarding and that one running scene, which I've already talked about. There's a segment where you skip rocks. There's another where Slater's drunk off his ass and knocking VHS tapes off the shelves of Definitely Not Hollywood Video. Then there's one where you actually get to play House Flipper for the 30 seconds it takes to paint a single door. One where you make slushies, another where you walk through a closed dinosaur theme park and take pictures, then one where they're hopping through a field, and another where they're flying in cars and making fireworks pop off. Oh, okay. Flashback? What the fuck? Oh my god. Oh my god. What the hell? That's enough. Why? Why would you do that to me? Why would you subject me to that? What have I done to you, Annapurna? What have I done to you? They're hijinks. They're opportunities for the creators to give us some interactivity because they chose to make this a video game instead of an animated short film. The interactivity in these segments doesn't really add to the story. More often than not, the music is front and center and the interactivity is there to serve it, when, in my opinion, as a video game, it really should be the other way around. These sequences felt less like I was engaging with the story and more like I was being pulled away from the plot so we could listen to music and sort of interact with the game. I am not joking when I tell you that a chunk of this interactivity was entirely pointless, such as pressing buttons to headbang in the car, or make fireworks pop, or make Slater knock videos onto the ground. Now, I will say this, I thought the visuals of the game were very nice, very aesthetically pleasing and stylistically unique, or at least I thought so. There was some effort on display here in putting together different environments, and I thought they were beautiful and well-developed. Some of the sequences, like the flying ones, really gave the game a chance to show off those environments, and I thought they were excellently rendered and just very well-designed and beautiful. I just wish it was all in a different game. Back onto the topic of music. It's a big deal in this game. Lots of actually well-known songs and well-known bands were included in it, and apparently lots of YouTubers were irritated because the music in the game was licensed or copyright protected. I don't know. And I get that. But also, as a YouTuber, the creator isn't required to give us a game without copyrighted music in it. Not every game has to be made to accommodate YouTubers. It's probably smart, as a developer, to keep YouTubers in mind, since you're basically getting free advertising from gaming tubers playing your games. But YouTubers aren't owed a copyright music-free game. Also, for what it's worth, I eventually got to a point where I just shut the music off altogether, and it actually added a layer of humor to my playthrough.
This is fantastic.
You think so?
Yeah! I mean, this is fucking cinematic. You have to give me this song. I'll show it to Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, maybe.
I wish I could make music.
You could. You know loads about music.
The music is not within me.
Rockford's whole personality is music lover. The entire story centers around her creating a soundtrack of their last day together, and music is what she uses to cope with life, especially when she gets, the panic.
Most of the time, if I don't have music on, I get the panic.
What's the panic?
Like, time feels like it's drifting by. I feel like I'm wasting something.
I don't think that's how they talked in the 1990s, but I wasn't a teenager in the 90s, so what do I know? But yeah, Rockford has exactly 2 personality traits: pathologically obsessed with music and delinquent. Which brings me to my greater issue with this game. And that's the fact that I hated these fucking characters and was actively rooting against them as the game went on. Now, I'm gonna sound like the most boomer of all boomers throughout this part, but bear with me, I have points I have to make. Obviously, teenagers are notoriously poor at predicting the long-term consequences of their actions. They only understand that school is boring today, so they don't understand how failing to graduate will impact them in the future. Everyone is replaceable, and there are some business owners that will see that you've been arrested before, and they will just instantly toss your resume aside. They're not even going to take you into consideration. They got other applicants who don't have that baggage. They don't care. If you live in a small town and people know you to be a menace, they are not likely to hire you in the future. Teenagers know they're not supposed to drink underage, but have a sort of, well, it happens to other people, but it totally won't happen to me attitude about kids dying or being badly injured or raped while unconscious, or getting mutually wasted and ending up in a teenage pregnancy. Nor do they necessarily understand how losing a limb, suffering a traumatic brain injury, or massive burns, or any of the other things that can happen while you're getting crazy drunk in the woods with your friends can truly affect your quality of life in the long run. Teens also sometimes struggle with understanding how their behavior affects the people around them. Shoplifting is super fun and definitely not hurting anyone until that local drugstore has to shut down or lock everything up behind glass because they kept getting robbed from. Teens riding their skateboards at high speeds down the middle of the road is dangerous for them, sure, but it's also dangerous for oncoming cars that might instinctively swerve off the road to avoid hitting them. Having a rager end-of-school-year party out in the middle of the woods where someone accidentally starts a fire and you just happen to live in the Pacific Northwest raises the possibility of a wildfire breaking out, and I don't need to tell you that it's all cool and fun until people's homes and livelihoods have been reduced to rubble. A lot of the behavior I've just listed off is on display in Mixtape from our three main characters, unapologetically. Literally, the opening sequence of the game is the three characters skateboarding down a winding, sloping street. They weave into and around oncoming traffic, and Cassandra has the nerve to flip off a driver that honks at her. Throughout the game, Rockford, Cassandra, and Slater drink constantly. Towards the end of the game, they attend a massive rager of a party where underage kids are getting drunk, passing out, jumping off of the roof of the cabin in the woods. I should mention that this party takes place out in the forest in a very rural area, so have fun getting medical assistance if someone breaks something or suffers from alcohol poisoning or, gets raped or beaten to a pulp. Then towards the end of the sequence, a fire starts, so not only do you have people at risk of being burned, you now have a fire burning in a heavily wooded area in a part of the country that is known for catching on fire. Then there's the shoplifting, and apparently Rockford's never heard the phrase, "don't shit where you eat," because that store owner saw her face, and if this town is nearly as small as it's implied for it to be, he's probably going to know where you live and where you go to school. And even if he doesn't, the cops will probably be able to figure that out. I didn't grow up in a tight community, but my father did, and I promise you, when you live in a small area with a limited number of people in it, everyone knows everyone, and you can't get away with shit. Of course, Rockford could possibly get away with it because apparently she's allowed to speak to her parents however the hell she feels like.
You called her sister yet? Is she picking you up from the airport?
No! Stop pressuring me!
Sorry, sweetie.
What the fuck? I'm sorry, I know there's just dead air for several seconds. But I'm so torn. Was that meant to be funny? Was that meant to be like a subtle nod to teenagers being dicks? Your dad just very calmly says, "Hey, sweetie, did you call your sister? Is she picking you up from the airport?" No! Stop pressuring me! Okay, sweetie. I think if I spoke that way to either of my parents when I was 17 or 18, their response would be, "Whoa! Walk back down here and say that to my face, kid!" They'd call me back and say, "Excuse me? What did you just say to me? What tone do you think you're taking with me in the house that I pay for?" That's, oh my god. I know. It could be that this is just, maybe this is deliberate characterization. That could be very much the case, but damn, that might be my first hint about why people didn't like this game very much. My parents, despite never engaging in corporal punishment, would never have allowed me to speak to them the way that Rockford speaks to her parents. Never. And that was the first moment in this game when I genuinely began to dislike Rockford because she came off as such a disrespectful, spoiled brat. And the fact that her dad's response was be like, "Oh, sorry, honey," you gotta be kidding me, right? Slater was okay, but still very much of that mindset of actually getting high and drunk and underage is fine, and the adults who try to stop me are just lame. which is annoying. He participated in a lot of the delinquency, he just wasn't actively obnoxious about it the way Rockford was. Cassandra was... oh god. Okay, so first, I do need to run a quick defense here briefly. Since finishing the game, I've seen some clips of people criticizing Mixtape, and in particular Cassandra, in that one scene where she's complaining about how her entire life is a series of after-school programs.
I guess this is my dad's plan, not mine. I've got the road trip, but I have no idea what I'm into, you know? And that kind of scares me.
But you're so good at it.
I feel like I'm running out of time.
To do what?
It's like how you love music. You know everything about it. It defines you. It makes me like you. People who have passions are hot, you know? I'm just a series of after-school programs.
The criticism is, be grateful that you have those programs because a lot of people can't afford them, and ooh, your parents care enough to pay for you to do sports, how oppressed you are. The idea is that she's a privileged girl who's whining about nothing real. And I disagree with this statement. Cassandra is not complaining that her parents make her do after-school programs. She's complaining that her parents are controlling almost every aspect of her life and trying to mold her into a person she doesn't necessarily want to be. It's a well-recognized pattern in the USA and some other countries that some families with the means to do so will overload their kids on extracurricular activities because even from a very young age, they've decided that this kid is going to Harvard or is going to be a sports star. These kids are so loaded up on sports and debate clubs and volunteer work and homework by their parents that they often end up crashing out and suffering from severe anxiety and depression. Furthermore, as Cassandra points out, there's very little time for the child to develop their own identity and sense of self because they're so overloaded with things that their parents want them doing. Also worth mentioning is that we're told that her mother designed her entire room and the only part she's allowed to express herself on is a bulletin board.
This is the only portion of the room Cassandra is allowed to style in her own particular idiom. Only Cassandra's mom is allowed to decorate the house. All proposed changes are deliberated via committee.
I understand that to some people it can come across as out of touch to complain about being able to do a lot of extracurriculars because they often cost money, but I do think some of the people criticizing this are missing the point within the context of Cassandra's story. It's not about the extracurriculars, it's about the fact that Cassandra's parents are too controlling and not giving her enough space to develop as a person, which is something a lot of people can identify with. Also, check out that book, The Overachievers by Alexander Robbins. It's a little outdated in terms of the teenage experience since it was published in 2006, but overall it did a great job explaining how being overloaded with activities for the sake of being well-rounded and getting into college can really backfire and end up being detrimental to a child's mental and emotional development. So I can defend Cassandra on that one part. The parts where I definitely refuse to defend her are the ones where she's acting like a delinquent brat for no special reason, such as swearing and flipping off a car when she and her friends are recklessly riding their skateboards in the street, getting so drunk underage that she passes out and has to be carried out by her friends, because that's definitely never ended badly for a teenage girl. Or how about when she decided to go out with her friends and TP the principal's house and then taking responsibility for it so Rockford doesn't get expelled? It's one thing to complain that your parents are too controlling. And I do think that Rockford makes a good point that Cassandra is burning out hard because she's so restricted at home. She's become emotionally and mentally unstable and so desperate for freedom that she's stopped caring about her future or how she's impacting it with her current behavior. She only cares about pissing off mommy and daddy and being the biggest rebel ever to rebel. Which, of course, brings me back to the fire. This is the big climax of the game, and now that I've been looking into it more, this might be the most parodied and mocked scene in all of Mixtape. What the fuck? You're setting a fire in the Pacific Northwest, the part of the country that burns down like twice a year! Oh my god, oh my god.
It's the cops!
Run.
Oh, shocker! You started a fire and the cops came! Idiots.
Cassandra!
What the fuck? Oh, we're Are we finally accepting the consequences of our... Oh, wait, no, we're not. No, we're not. Not with that look on her face. Oof. Whoa.
I want you to understand. This ain't a catastrophe. It's a warning. Daddy, if you trap me here, this will only be the beginnings of my wicked ways. Because I'm angry and I'm wired and I'm fixing for a whole lot of trouble. If you make me stay here, I'm gonna burn the whole fucking place down!
What the
There'll
fuck?
be patrol cars up and down this road. Get out of here. Go on.
What?
Back the way you came.
And
Well, I guess we have ourselves an understanding.
What? I didn't realize until just that moment when Cassandra did the bit that there was supposed to be specific music accompanying it. When I saw the clips of people reacting to the full thing, I was torn between laughing my ass off and nearly cringing myself clean out of existence. This sequence was goofy. Absolutely goofy. 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 You just claimed responsibility for starting a fire in the Pacific Northwest. And now you've threatened to burn everything down if Daddy doesn't let you go. Cassandra, baby cakes, if you're 18, you don't need permission to leave. You can just go. Or, alternatively, if you're financially reliant on your parents still, you can play ball for a while, get a job, gain financial independence, and then leave your parents' control. But if you're thinking that it's your parents' job to pay for your road trip with your friends right out of high school, then I regret to inform you that you are now a grown-up and your parents are allowed to have strings attached to their money because it is their money, not yours. If it's conditional to you going to college, then go to college, behave yourself, and work on getting independent from them. Remember when I said that she was emotionally and mentally unstable? This scene is kind of the clincher. Girl is not okay. But her dad, Officer Marino, he just lets her go. Because letting your kid run free after committing arson and then threatening to commit more? Great parenting. Awesome. There is never a better time to start loosening the reins on your child than in response to bad behavior. Because bad behavior always stops when it receives the desired response. That's bare minimum thousands of dollars in resources to clean up that mess. And that's not just the fire. It's also the detritus left over from the party, because you know none of those asshole teenagers are going to care about coming back and cleaning up those leftover beer cans, and God knows what else was left behind. I don't like these characters. I don't. It's if I'm supposed to like them, I don't like them. If you like them, that's perfectly fine. I'm not saying that no one else is allowed to like them, but I do not like them. Their behavior came across as grossly immature and self-centered, and I don't vibe with it. I'm not into it. I'm additionally annoyed by how the characters and their actions are framed. I run a book channel. I mentioned it at the beginning, Jenny Reads, where I do book reviews. And sometimes when I do those reviews, I have to make a judgment call about a badly behaved character. Is this the author deliberately depicting a bad person, and if the book is first-person perspective, naturally skewing the narration towards that bad person because they lack self-awareness about their behavior? Or is that author writing a bad person that they think is a sympathetic, justifiable, or heroic person and slanting the narrative to reinforce that, even if the facts don't line up with it? It really is a toss-up sometimes. Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita is a great example of the author knowingly and deliberately writing the worst person imaginable, but it's from that person's POV, so naturally he justifies all of his choices. You're not meant to like Humbert. You're meant to think he's a freak-ass loser PDF. That was Nabokov's intention, but writing a story from Humbert's POV with us being inside of his head, obviously Humbert is going to justify and excuse all of his bad behavior. We're in his head. We are seeing what he's thinking. It makes sense. It's not Nabokov justifying Humbert as a human being. It's Humbert as a narrator justifying himself. So here's the question. Is Mixtape simply depicting teenagers engaging in bad behavior because that's what a lot of teens do, and the developer is not, trying to depict their behavior as being good or right or appropriate or acceptable or defensible? Or is it romanticizing and excusing that behavior as not that bad and actually kind of fun and get over it, it's just teenagers? I would argue after playing the game in its entirety that it's the latter. And probably the best example I have for this right now is Officer Marino, who, again, is Cassandra's dad, and how he's framed within the plot. So throughout the game, he's treated like an asshole. At one point, he comes home and tells Cassandra she's not going to the party that night because he knows there's going to be underage drinking and whatnot, and tells her friends to leave. He also doesn't like Rockford and Slater because they're delinquents and a bad influence on his daughter. Which is both true and valid. I'm going to get into that more in a second. Then Rockford saves Cassandra from getting caught drinking by her dad, taking the blame and trying to explain that Cassandra's lashing out because of how controlled she feels. Then she does the most painfully "I'm 14 and this is deep" thing imaginable and quotes a song lyric at him.
As Rush said in their 1992 classic, any escape might help to smooth the unattractive truth. But the suburbs have no charms to soothe
I hate her
restless
so much.
dreams
I hate her.
of youth.
I hate her! And then Officer Marino quotes one back and proceeds to put Rockford in the cop car anyway. Then he lets Cassandra throw her little tantrum and threaten to burn everything down if he doesn't let her go, and he lets her and her friends escape. Interesting how Officer Marino only becomes the good guy once he lets the kids get away with their bullshit. Interesting how he only becomes soft and kind once he's allowing them to escape the consequences of their actions. Because that's kind of how it came off to me. The cops are only cool if they let me get away with underage drinking and starting a fire, which is honestly how a lot of people view cops. They suck until they decline to hold me accountable for my bad behavior. Then they're cool. Officer Marino and his wife also stand out in that they're the mean parents. Rockford's parents let her disrespect them openly, apparently, and Slater's mother is clearly a cool mom. Not just because she thinks the cops are bad, but also because she offers to make Slater and Rockford cocktails. Marino and his wife, meanwhile, are overly strict with Cassandra and disapprove of her friends, but they're the only ones who are actively framed as negatively impacting their daughter within the narrative. Furthermore, when the Marinos dislike Rockford and Slater and think they're a bad influence on Cassandra, Rockford insists that they have it all wrong because Cassandra is popping off anyways and looking to lash out regardless, which seems to be confirmed by the narrative when Cassandra goes off drinking with Jenny, no relation, and the repeated references to Cassandra feeling constricted and pissed off about her parents in the game. Rockford isn't wrong necessarily, but what she's missing out on here is that while she and Slater might not be the cause of the rebellion, they are enabling it and exacerbating it. Cassandra is getting blackout drunk at 17, 18 years old, and instead of counseling her to take it easy, they save her from the consequences of her actions and continue to drink with her. They were also the ones that decided to TP the principal's house, knowing that Rockford was in danger of being expelled, and this is what leads to Cassandra taking responsibility for the TPing, which Rockford and Slater allow her to do, by the way, knowing she's going home to extremely strict parents. Great friends, by the way. So in short, while they're not causing Cassandra's behavior necessarily, they are enabling it and encouraging it. But it does seem like the game wants me to take the idea that they have nothing to do at all with Cassandra's behavior at face value. It is my entirely subjective opinion that the narrative is trying to suggest that Rockford, Slater, and Cassandra are just normal teens getting into normal teen mischief, and that the adults who are trying to stop them are lame. And while I agree that it is normal for teens to act out, to drink and be disrespectful, and otherwise get into things you wouldn't want them getting into, there's a difference between grasping that as a reality of the world and kind of low-key romanticizing their bad behavior. And I believe the latter is what the game is going for. I don't think we're meant to see Rockford and her friends as obnoxious, spoiled, disrespectful delinquents. The amount of "I'm 14 and this is deep" philosophizing in this game suggests to me that we're meant to see them as deep, mature teens who engage in a little bit of mischief and rebellion every now and then, and are so brilliantly creative and amazing and determined that they have to have bright futures ahead of them, right? Definitely not losers who are about to get a big reality check when they go out into the real world and realize that in the grand scheme of things, they aren't nearly as special as they think they are. That's my vibe. That's my interpretation. You don't have to like it, but that's my read of this game. I detected no irony, no winks, no nudges to suggest that maybe we aren't meant to take these kids mostly seriously. And I think that makes sense because a lot of people who were teenagers in the 1990s have opined that they believe that this game is nostalgia bait for Zoomers who didn't actually experience the 1990s. I've seen handfuls of Reddit posts and YouTube comments from people who either were like Rockford, Slater, and Cassandra, or knew people who were, and have talked about how much the game downplays the consequences of underage drinking and drug use and general delinquency and the impact it has on your life long term. And I can't necessarily comment on the accuracy of teenagerhood in 1999 because I was born in the early 90s and was a teenager in the 2000s, So while I remember the 90s somewhat, I didn't experience them quite the same way. But I generally trust the ones who were teens at the time, and there seems to be a lot of them asserting that the lifestyle Rockford and her friends are embracing is a lot seedier and more dead-end than the game chooses to depict. Now, again, let me reiterate just for the record here. The creator is allowed to do whatever they want with their game. If they want to create the most obnoxious characters known to mankind and depict them as like, oh, they're actually wonderful and you should all love them. That's their prerogative to create that as a game. If they want to make the world's most obnoxious characters and play it completely straight, that's fine. But I don't like these characters. There is nothing about them that I see worthy of liking. And from what I can tell based off of the backlash that this game is getting, I think a lot of people are coming at it with that, where the biggest attack on the game that I am seeing is the criticism of the characters, because they are so annoying, they are so obnoxious, they are so full of themselves, and they're like, how would I put it? Again, I'm 14 and this is deep philosophizing, that they don't like the characters, the game doesn't offer much in way of interactivity, and the story itself is kind of just all over the place and not really that exciting. There's no mystery. There's no, like, real action in it. It's just a bunch of dumb kids getting ready to finish high school and go off on their lives. I understand why this game is not getting good feedback from people. Although, I did manage to capture my reaction when I, because I think I switched over to my computer. I accidentally and completely coincidentally came across the IGN review for Mixtape. What? No way! No way! No way you gave this a fucking 10 out of 10. Absolutely no way. No. I want to, I gotta, because I'm about to throw me a big stupid fit if this ends up being what I think it's gonna be. You gave Resident Evil 7 a 7.7 out of 10. You've gotta be shitting me. Let's see. Let's get a look at this. I wanna see that. 7.5 for Until Dawn. You gave 7.5 to Until fucking Dawn out of 10. But you gave Mixtape a 10 out of fucking 10? IGN, you're clowns. You're full of clownery. You put on the red nose and the silly wig and the big floppy shoes because you are a clown company. Yeah, I was a little mad. I was a little mad. I'm not gonna get too deep into it here. You can probably find this in other reviews, but I guess part of the controversy is that the developer was supposedly indie and got picked up by Annapurna Interactive, which is incidentally the same ones who did What Remains of Edith Finch. But apparently she claimed to be indie, but she actually had a lot more money or something like that. I don't know. There's been some behind-the-scenes stuff on here. I'm really not going to get into that. I'm mostly getting into, like, the actual game and its stuff. And it's just... the story is boring. The characters, I hate them. The narrative, in my opinion, seems to be going out of its way to validate these stupid loser kids. And I'm not a fan. But characters I hated. Story was boring as all get out. The interactivity was barely there, and the music was kind of nice, but I can't give that to the game. And the scenery was nice. The scenery and the design and the character designs were all very nice. I kind of like it. Yeah, the human designs were okay. But, I wasn't a huge fan of Rockford's. But yeah, no, that's Mixtape. That's Mixtape. I regret buying this game. It's digital, so I can't even return it. It's annoying to put that much effort into playing a game like this. I mentioned at the beginning that there is a reason why I decided to do the format that I'm doing with this, where it's a review mixed in with my recording. And a big part of it was that I just realized that there's very little quiet moments during this game where I can offer commentary. I kind of have to be quiet during a lot of it because there's so much yapping. So I figured, okay, well, I may as well just do a review and do some of my playthrough on top of the sprinkled throughout the review, because otherwise it's just going to be like a 2 or 3 hour recording of me sitting there and letting the game play. But yeah, I did not like Mixtape. Will not play it again, except maybe for a little bit of trophy cleanup because I'm nitpicky like that. But as far as this developer goes, not necessarily Annapurna, but the developer that was underneath them, if I see their name attached to any games in the future, I don't know that I'm going to be partaking of them. I think I'm going to be backing away with my hands up, and unfortunately for that developer, I think a lot of people are going to be doing that. So, yeah, that was my thoughts on Mixtape. Thank you guys for watching, and have a lovely evening. Good night.